call this 14th meeting of the Senate Standing Committee on Education to order. As usual, please silence your cell phones. If you wish to speak, you need to sign up on a sign-up sheet towards the back. Do any members at this time have introductions? We're going to follow the procedure over here, just like we do across the street. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Here.
Senator Funky Bromeyer.
Present.
Senator Gibbons. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith.
Present.
Senator Neal.
Present.
Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas.
Here.
Senator Tishner. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Present.
Vice Chair Williams.
Here.
Chair West.
Here, we have a quorum. First on the agenda, we have three bills. First is House Bill 169, an act relating to emergency medical preparedness of schools. The witnesses, John, you may have to move over here. For the KET cameras, the speakers will need to sit in that corner right there in those three chairs in order to be picked up on camera. We apologize for the accommodations, but it's late in session. You know how it goes. Whenever you are settled, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Representative Ruth Ann Palumbo from Lexington.
And I'm Representative Kim Mosier. I represent the 64th District.
Floor is yours.
Thank you.
First, we would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for including this bill that's a life-saving bill on the agenda. Last year, the two of us passed House Bill 331, which added AEDs to middle and high schools. But then we realized that this has affected elementary school students as well. Ella Beams was a grade school student when she went into cardiac arrest. She was an 8-year-old third grader. Her heart stopped. She died. She had been dizzy. She suffered, everything went black for her, and she just passed out. And she was brought back through CPR as well as a principal finding an AED to save her life. This bill adds elementary schools to the schools that will be required to have an AED. And if there's ever been a bipartisan piece of legislation, this is it.
That's right. Yeah, I just really, I'll just make it quick. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss this. This is something that I've worked on since well before I was in the legislature. I worked with the Batson family. Cameron Batson is a constituent of mine who died, unfortunately, on a soccer field. There were AEDs locked in the school and fixed to the wall, which does no one any good when you're on a soccer field or a sports field. And so this would require just portable AEDs in elementary schools. As Representative Palumbo said, we passed a law last year to require these in high schools and just feel strongly that we need to protect all of our children. We've also worked with the Mangine family, again, another bright, healthy constituent who died on a soccer field when an AED was in a coach's office. There was no emergency action plan, and so this also institutes an emergency action plan so that we have coaches and faculty who know what the plan is, know what to do. So this is just extending these provisions to younger children, and of course anyone, teachers, parents who might be in the building.
Before we get into motions, we have a few questions. Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Palumbo, for the bill. And Representative Moser, you initially had the first bill on this that
It
we
was the
passed.
first bill I ever filed.
And my understanding is as funds become available.
Last year, we set up a trust fund to accept any appropriations or outside funding for the purpose of providing AEDs in schools. It's my understanding through our discussions with Commissioner Tackett that, and actually my superintendents, that these are being implemented and placed in schools through foundations who are funding this, outside partnerships. And so I think it's really important to get the word out that this is important, that we must have an AED in every school. And the funding, we haven't had a state appropriation. We've asked for one. We would like to have a trust fund of some funds available as needed, and to have grants appropriated to schools who need some of the funds. But if they don't need them, it sounds like the schools are finding funding and creating partnerships.
So they're able to fund them themselves or through the trust fund.
Mm-hmm.
But in the terms of the state, we do not provide any funding for them.
Not at this point,
Okay, thank you.
but we're hopeful.
Senator Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Plumbo and Representative Moser. I'm supportive of the bill. I did have one question of looking at the sub on page 3 there in lines 23 through 5 of the next page. It says there it will submit an annual report to the Kentucky Department of Education. Looking at previous language there, it talks about the athletic coaches doing a lot of this, of having certification. But is this reporting to that provided by the school board, the principal, the coaches? Who specifically is that will be submitting that annual report?
It's my understanding that this would be the schools who report to the Department of Education.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other quick questions on House Bill 169? Do you have a question or a motion? We have a motion for favorable expression from Senator Neal. Do we have a second? We have a second. Senator Funky Fromeyer, please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner.
Can I just briefly explain my I vote?
Vote and explain.
Thank you all so much. This is definitely needed. I really appreciate the efforts put in to make sure we're taking care of all of our younger students. And it's important. I don't know that we have any data that we track on the number of students that are affected by this, but I know it has increased recently in the last few years, and it's just an important measure to make sure we have something in place to save them and help as soon as possible. Thank you.
Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. House Bill 169 passes unanimously. Do we have a motion for consent? We have a motion for consent from Senator Carroll. Do we have a second? Second from Senator Meredith. All those in favor of putting House Bill 169 on consent say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. House Bill 169 is on consent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Up next, we have House Bill 387, an act relating to substitute teacher certification. You can get settled, Representative Truitt. I do need to make an announcement to the committee on this particular bill. As we go further, this is a little bit different how this will be handled. So there is a committee sub. We're going to discuss the bill, and we're going to discuss the sub. We're not going to act on the sub until after everyone's had a chance to ask questions and discuss it. And that's how that will flow. Floor is yours. State your name for the record and proceed.
Representative Tim Truitt, representative of the 89th District. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of this body. Today, I bring before you a bill, and I guess I'll start off by explaining why this bill was drafted. As some of you may know, my real job is elementary principal, and most days I'm able to check into school before I come to session. So Tuesdays I can't. Tuesdays I've got committee meetings at 8, so I usually call my assistant principal. On the second week of session, I called her up and I said, Miss Taylor, how's things going? And she was panicked because we had 9 teachers out and we had 0 subs. So I got to thinking, called my superintendent, like, what's up? Why is there no subs? And he's like, well, currently we've only got 3 in the district and they were in another school. So I seen right away that, which obviously I knew that was a problem already, but I really got to digging into the issues and why that substitute teachers may not be available. So we want to try to make it as easy as possible to become a substitute teacher. And I thought back to when I used to substitute teach and remember working so hard to get to that 64 college hours. Once you got those 64 college hours, then you were allowed to substitute teach, which, in my opinion as a principal, is one of the best ways of learning how to become a teacher. Is, trial by fire, throw them in there and see how you do. So what my bill will do is my bill will eliminate that 64 college hour requirement in order to be a substitute teacher. It extends those emergency certificates, to where if you do not have 64 college hours, you get a 1-year emergency certificate to be a substitute teacher. Obviously, the principal and the superintendent would have to be okay with that. I know there are some concerns. I've heard a few concerns about the age. And this is kind of my response to that. Currently right now, 64 college hours. I've known of numerous high school graduates who graduate high school with 64 college hours already. So some of those concerns could already be happening. What this would do is I would hope that a superintendent and a principal would be wise about who they allowed to substitute in certain schools. But it would be a local decision. But that's the only reservations that I've heard, is just the fact that, maybe we don't want a 18 or 19-year-old graduate substitute teaching in a high school, and once again, that could already happen. All right, so this bill will just allow that anybody that does not, and I'm hoping that if this bill passes, that we'll have teachers who now, for example, in my building, I've got teachers that come to work daily who are sick just because they know that no one is there to cover their class. And, that's also, in my opinion, one of the deterrents to going into education is, that support and that, having those resources that are available in case you need to take a day off. And, teachers right now, currently the only thing that you can do is combine classes, or, have a classified aide, watch those classes while there's no teacher in the classroom. So that's what this bill does. If there's any questions about it, I'd be more than happy to answer.
We have a few questions. We'll start with Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Clearly, this is important. We've heard a lot from our school districts. Interesting, I actually recently heard from a constituent the need for allowing teachers to substitute more. Allowing substitutes that are previously retired teachers. How do we address that, or is that addressed?
That's not addressed in this bill, but I do think at some point we do need to look at our retirement system and kind of see if we can. I think currently right now that a retired employee can work maybe 100 days or 75%. So I would be more than happy to raise that at some point, or we allowed our retired teachers to come back, work on those days. It would be good for everybody. But this bill does not address that. I wish it did, but it doesn't.
What is the downside of it?
The downside to what?
Of the retired teachers
Oh.
being
In my opinion, there is no downside. There's no downside at all to allowing a retired teacher to come back and substitute teach. But that's just something right now that our retirement system will not allow a retired teacher to do that. I guess they would consider that maybe double dipping or something like that. But right now, a retired teacher can come back and work. And somebody, Senator West may know for sure, but the chairman may know. But I think it's 75% or 100 days, and that's through the retirement system that has some boundaries there that will not allow them to come back and work. So, but that's something I would be more than happy to dig into maybe next session.
The expert on that is sitting right next to you there, if he knows it.
Over there. He was pointing over there. 140 days.
That's a discussion for another committee meeting, for sure, but duly noted. I've got one question, and that'll be it on this section. So the scenario, if you have a teaching assistant who has a high school education, maybe in that classroom every day, would this bill open up the possibility of that assistant being able to get their substitute certification and just they're in that classroom every day anyway, give them an opportunity to sub some?
Yes, that exactly, and that's a big part of this too. During COVID, we had emergency clauses there where we covered our assistants for covering those classes. So I'm just thinking back to like my district. What my district will do is my district will file for this or apply for this emergency certificate for all of the classified employees. So if something happens and a teacher can't be there, we're covered legally for that assistant, that parent educator, whatever you want to call it, teacher's aide, to cover that class in case there's no one there. So that will be covered under that emergency certificate.
Okay, there are no more questions. Let's move to section 2 of the sub, and if you would just discuss what section 2 does.
All right, section 2 is a bill that talks about, as an educator, we're required to get professional development each summer. And all this bill will do here is it will allow our guidance counselors, all right, and teachers to receive 4 hours of professional development in learning about the trades, in learning about occupations out there other than going to college. That and I'll speak on behalf. At first, when I first started talking about this bill or looking at this bill, I didn't really see that it was going to be an earth-shattering bill. And then I started doing some research, and I've got a high school senior right now. And after doing some of the research, I seen a program that I thought would be perfect for my son. So we applied for a apprenticeship right out of high school to where he can go learning to be an electrician, and he basically is getting paid to go to school. He's working 4 days a week, and he's going to school 1 day a week. And I know that if I hadn't have seen this legislation, that would not have been possible. We are shifting, over the last 5 to 10 years to where the importance of students coming out of high school being career ready is more important than it used to be. But I think we need to continue to push that shift to where someone coming out of high school ready to earn a degree or ready to go to work is so important. And, when I was in school, when I was in high school, I remember my teachers telling me, if you want to be successful, you got to have that college degree. You got to have that college degree. And, I did. I got a college degree, and I'm glad I got it, and I'm proud of the college degree I have. But I also know that these trade schools and these vocational schools, they can produce, and these students can start off on day one making big money, a lot more money than I make as an educator. So that's what this bill does. It opens it up, and all it says is if a counselor would like to receive some professional development from some sort of trade organization or trade school, then they can go and learn what programs that organization has available. It doesn't require anybody to do it. It just says if you want to use 4 hours to learn about a trade, if you want to be a welder or a electrician or a plumber or a whatever you want to be, it just allows them to do it. And also it's got in there for teachers too. If a teacher wants to use 4 of those hours to go and learn about a trade, that they can come back and show their students. I just see this being a game changer for us in Kentucky. Hopefully, it will increase the number of students leaving high school who are ready to join a trade right off the bat. So that's kind of what that part of the bill does.
That's the committee sub in a nutshell. Do we have any further questions from members on the sub? Senator Wilson. You should have it in your folder, yes.
It's connected. I think they both are connected. From my copy is, yeah.
Sub. Do we have any questions? Section 2 is the addition. That would be the sub. And section 2 is what we just discussed. Section 1 was the original bill.
I'll make a motion on the bill.
We need to adopt the sub first. Do we have a motion on the sub?
Second.
We have a motion from Senator Funky Fromeyer, second from Senator Wise. Motion to adopt the sub. All those in favor of adopting the sub say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Sub is adopted. Do we next have a motion on the bill as amended by the sub?
So moved.
We have a motion from Senator Carroll. Do we have a second? Second from Senator Williams. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Aye.
Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Williams.
Aye.
Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. If you'll pause right there. Do you wish to? Senator Givens has an aye vote. House Bill 387, as amended by committee sub, passes unanimously. Do we have a motion for consent? We have a motion for consent. We have a second from Senator Wilson. All those in favor of putting House Bill 387 on consent say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. House Bill 387 is on consent. A little bit of more housekeeping here. There is a title amendment. Do we have a motion to adopt the title amendment? We have a motion. Senator Wise, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor of adopting the title amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Title amendment is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Next up, we have House Bill 695, an act establishing the Adaptive Kindergarten Readiness Pilot Project. Representative Jackson and guest, whenever you're settled, please state your names for the record and proceed.
Kevin Jackson, representing House District 20, which is Bowling Green and Warren County.
My name is Steve Robertson. I'm with Frost Brown Todd.
Thank you, Chairman West and committee members, for giving me the opportunity to present House Bill 695 this morning. A little bit of unusual situation, but I sure appreciate the opportunity to do it. Tell you a little bit about House Bill 695. Establishes a 2-year voluntary pilot project to provide preschool-age children with a computer-based reading program designed to improve kindergarten readiness through family engagement of 15 to 20 minutes per day. Currently, less than 50% of Kentucky kids are kindergarten ready on day one. Let me repeat that. Less than 50% of Kentucky kindergarten kids are ready on day one. That's alarming, since we know how critical the early years are for learning. This idea was brought to me by the chairman of the House and Senate Education Committees. They heard about what Utah and other states were doing with this program. at a conference. In talking to KDE about funding, they have agreed to oversee the program and provide the funding for year one with leftover ESSER funds. They would contract with a vendor to provide the online services for up to 400 eligible 4 and 5-year-olds and their families not currently in or going into kindergarten next year. There would be a voluntary application process to apply. 40% of the slots would be reserved for children from low-income families. There would also be a section in there if they were 400% below poverty level, they would be able to be provided with a computer or iPad to do the program on. KDE would be required to submit a report with data to the legislature by December 1 of 2025 evaluating the pilot program. In closing, Mr. Chairman, we are just looking for ways to help better prepare our kids as they enter kindergarten, and this has moved the needle in Utah and some other states. So I see it as a win-win situation. There's no cost to the state. If there are any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Just full disclosure, there's no cost to the state unless we choose to put funds in second year, which is still possible as the session is still somewhat open.
That would be the ideal situation.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
Yep. Senator Tishner has a question.
If this does proceed forward, what would that amount be? Do we have any idea?
We did not a full physical note, but a partial, just taking the amount of students, 400, and the amount of the cost of the program, which is about $1,590 per. So it would be about $640,000 for the pilot, second year of the pilot program.
Senator Neal, I believe, has a question. Please proceed.
I'm just curious, you made a comment that moved the needle.
Senator Neal, could you pull that microphone in, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You made a comment about it had moved the needle where they had employed these programs. Could you elucidate on that?
Yeah, I'm going to let my friend.
Sure thing. Thank you for that question, Senator. I'm happy to take it. It's a good question. So in the state of Utah, a little over 10 years ago, they started with a very small pilot, very similar to what we're discussing here. Now, 10 years plus later, this program is now available to every 4 and 5-year-old in the state of Utah who is about to enter kindergarten. Over the analyses that they conducted, and they would use the Brigance test, usually that's administered here in Kentucky, usually within 30 days of a child entering kindergarten. They saw that children who were in the control group, who were well below kindergarten level, versus children who had gone through the program that they selected, there were just night and day differences on the readiness of those children. I have additional data, if you would like for me to send you some graphs that can show how those student populations compared, but I'd be happy to send those to you by email after the meeting. I know time is short today, but yes.
I invite you to do so. Thank you.
And I will send them to the entire committee.
Seeing no further questions, we are under a bit of a time crunch. I believe we have a motion from Senator Givens. I'm sorry, Senator Carroll had a question. I apologize.
Just a quick comment. Mr. Chairman, this goes along with what I've been shouting since day one of this session, and that's the importance of early childhood education. I see every day with our preschool kids who go through a curriculum that a highly rated center has, and the difference it makes when they can walk out of that building into a kindergarten classroom and they can read. And I can see the value of having computer software that makes it more entertaining for them, more interesting for them. And I commend you on this effort. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Givens has made a motion. Do we have a second on the motion? Second, Senator Wise. Please call the roll.
Senator Carroll.
Aye.
Senator Funky Fromeyer. Senator Givens. Senator Higdon. Senator Meredith. Senator Neal. Senator Stivers. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Chair West.
Aye. House Bill 695 passes with favorable expression. Do we have a motion for consent? We have a motion from Senator Carroll, second from Senator Givens, or vice versa. All those in favor of putting House Bill 695 on consent say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. This has to be a Senate Education Committee record where we've had two meetings in a row and all bills are on consent.